In this video, I am going to show you how to change a color picture into a high contrast black and white image and add some text. When you do laser engraving, it's important that you work with a black and white image that has some high contrast. That means that it's very dark in some places and very light in other places. So the app that you're going to use to do this is called PS Express. You can see it here on the top of my screen, PS Express. And you want to start by finding an image. I'm going to choose these hands here. This is a good image to start with because there is already some high contrast in the colors. Some of them are bright, some of them are dark, and I can work with this. If all of the colors or brightness is about the same, it probably won't work. So first I'm going to start by choosing the B&W and changing this to black and white. Notice the second option is high contrast BW. That's a good one to pick because it'll automatically set some of the contrast to be light and dark. So I can adjust this. I don't want it too dark and I don't want it too light. So I want it to be where I can see some good definition on the hands with the background being a little lighter. So I'm kind of looking at the difference between the foreground, which is the hands, and the background, which is the table. So right about there looks good. Next I'm going to switch over to the crop. And I don't want this whole thing. And my box is, if I were going to use this on the top of my box, it's about like this. So I crop it where I want it, and then I could rotate if I wanted to move that around, but it's okay the way that it is. You can also do some transformation if you want to skew it to give some perspective, but I'm going to leave that as is. So now I can also change and tweak some of these settings to make this even more defined high contrast. So you can see the lights are lighter and the darks are darker. And I can go through and adjust some of these to make this even more well defined. So this always depends on what picture you start with. But I'm going through, it might not look good on the screen, but when I laser engrave this, it will turn out better if there are dark blacks and white, very bright whites, as you see here. And there's other settings here that I can make this, turn this clarity up. I don't want it like that, that would be blurry. So I'm going to turn that clarity all the way up. I can dehaze this a little bit, and that should work. And you can see in the zoomed in view, a laser engraver is going to burn each one of these pixels into the wood. And so I want to make sure that when it burns the dark or the black colors, it'll do it at full power, and then the white pixels it'll do at a very low power or no power at all. So to be able to see that on wood, you want to make sure that the contrast is very high. This next one is red eye, but there's no red eye in this. It's already black and white. So I'm going to switch to text. And there's a bunch of different styles here. I'm just going to pick this first one. And you can move that where you want it, and you can change the color by hitting there, but I want this to be high contrast, so the black on top of the light background is best, but if you needed to, you could change it. That wouldn't turn out great because it's a light color, it's white on top of a light color. So I'm going to use black, and then I'm going to try to edit this. Here we are, and I'm just going to put the word hands on there. Move that so it looks nice. Yep. And change the size, rotate it, however I need to do that. Alright, so I added some text. There is some other settings here which I probably don't want to use, but you can look to see what's available. That wouldn't be too bad. Makes a nice frame on there. Kind of like. Some of these other settings you don't really need to use. So that's basically the end of it, where I have taken the color picture and I've made it a high contrast black and white picture. So my final step is to save it. In the top right corner, I'm going to hit that save and share, and I'm going to save it to my camera roll.